In the last video, we looked at why sibling conflict happens. In this video, I'm sharing 7 tips that you can start using right away to help. Number 1 is anticipate it. Can you spot any times of day where your children are butting heads more often than not? It could be after school, it could be when they're watching TV, it could be when they're playing with a particular toy. If we can notice any times of day where these things are happening, we can start to preempt it. If they are falling out over a particular toy, can you remove it? If it is a particular time of day, can you be more available to be with them? For example, my children tend to fall out more in the evening than in the morning because they're more tired. In the morning, I don't need to watch them as closely. After school, however, I do need to stick quite close by so that I'm ready to step in and help them. It also means that after school, I'm more mindful about any games that we play because there's a potential that things could escalate. And really, we don't want to be adding fuel to the fire. Number 2, don't leave them to it. I have heard lots of parents say, oh, I just leave mine to get on with it. Oh, I leave mine to fight it out between themselves. And I understand why. You feel like if you step back, then they'll have to learn how to sort it out between themselves. But that actually isn't the case. Our children need to learn conflict resolution skills. They aren't just going to guess them. So we do need to get involved. We do need to help them through each situation. It's a really common misconception that children will sort it out for themselves if we just leave them to get on with it. The chances are, if we do leave our children to get on with it, the more dominant child will win and the other children will just have to give in. And it also won't reduce the chances of a fallout happening again later. Just because you help them now doesn't mean that you'll always need to be there to help them. Once we've taught our children a skill, they will then in the future be able to use that on their own independently. And ultimately, when we think about our children as adults, we want them to have those conflict resolution skills. We want them to have those persuasion skills, but we need to teach them when they're little. Number 3, avoid taking sides. It's not your job to be the referee. You don't have to feel like, you're awarding points to this team or making decisions for that team. Your job is to be there. We don't want to be putting the blame on one particular child. We want to be helping both of the children navigate through it, even if one child has been the instigator in a situation. Fights between siblings often comes from a place of insecurity. So if we are putting all of the blame on one child or taking the side of another child, it won't reduce the conflict in the long run and it won't resolve the situation any faster. Our children need to feel like they're valued and that even if they've made a mistake, you're still there for them, you're still going to help them, and we don't want to fuel the conflict. If one child has upset the other and we're saying, well, actually, it was all your fault, this actually fuels the situation for next time. And quite often, between children, one child might start it, but the other child might still get involved. So then it can feel really unfair to the child that's getting the blame, and again, can make the situation worse in that moment, which is the last thing we want to be doing. Number 4, focus on the root reason. In a situation, it's really easy to be like, well, you pushed them over, so what did you expect? Actually, if we can focus on the reason why they've behaved in a certain way rather than the actual physical behaviour themselves, we stand a much better chance of getting the children to resolve the situation. So are they tired? Are they overwhelmed? From their point of view, did the other child do something to bother them? Maybe they have pushed them over, but it doesn't make them a bad sister or a bad brother. It might just mean that in that moment they had an unmet need. The more we focus on the root reason, the more that we can anticipate when these situations are likely to occur. Yes, it might be that one child felt grumpy and they acted out of character. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to push. It then shows us as parents that, okay, well, we've got something that we need to work on with that child. They need some skills to help with their anger so that they don't resort to pushing and hitting their sibling. Number 5, put their emotions into words. It is okay for them to be angry, but they might not actually realise that that's what it is. In that moment, they might just feel so overwhelmed that the only thing they can think to do is physically let their feelings out on their sibling, who's just at that moment the most annoying person on the earth. We then need to help them to understand what that feeling is, because again, children don't just happen to learn this stuff. It comes from an adult doing it with them. So if they're in a situation where their sibling is annoying them, if they can start to recognise, okay, this is happening because I'm angry, this is happening because I'm tired, when they're then older and they're in a situation with friendships or relationships or colleagues, they're going to know what that physical thing in their body is, and they're going to have some tools in their toolkit to help them. Also, by giving them that language, it then means that if they're in a situation at soft play or somewhere where you're not by their side all the time, maybe they're at school, that they've then got the language to explain how they feel. Oh, actually, I was feeling really frightened, so I told somebody to go away. If they're in a situation where a teacher's saying to them, why are you telling somebody to go away? Why are you telling them they can't play? If they've actually got that language because you've taught them, it's going to help them in numerous situations. So you might say things like, I can see that you're feeling angry, sad, frustrated, cross because you wanted to cuddle and I was busy with your brother. Have I got that right? So you're putting their feelings into words. Or it looks to me like you're getting a little bit fed up because I was busy with your brother and it's hard to wait. And then checking, well, have I got that right? Am I making the right guess here? It opens up the conversation. It gives your child an opportunity to say how they feel if you've got it wrong. But also it helps them to feel understood and validated. How often have you had a situation where you just feel fed up with something and you say to a friend or your partner, like, I was feeling like this. And if they would say, not really a big deal, is it? It's not going to make you feel better, it's going to make you feel worse. So in that moment, by helping our children realise that we see them, we hear them, we care about their feelings, we're only going to help that situation. So it's really important to check in with our children. Am I understanding you? It ensures that they feel heard and they feel seen. Number 6, help them to work through it. Much like my point on don't leave them to it, when you're there with them physically, help them to move through the situation. Siblings can learn to resolve their differences. They can learn that their sibling feels differently to them or they have a different perspective. They can learn to live alongside them without falling out all the time. But they can't be relied upon to do this independently if they've never been given those skills and that language. Also, children aren't yet mature enough to consistently see another person's point of view. So they might need you to step in. Quite often with children, if they're sharing how they feel, it's very difficult for them to hear, to understand, well, how I feel is okay and how that person feels is okay. Sometimes when they're then listening to somebody else's point of view, it can feel to a child like their point of view doesn't matter anymore. So model having boundaries, model problem solving, model compassion. Give each child a chance to speak up and explain their point of view. I will often say, whether it's to my own children or other children that I'm working with, okay, we're all going to have a chance to speak. First, I'm going to listen to this child, and then you're going to be able to say what you think. And over time, they learn, right, well, I don't interrupt when that person's speaking, and I listen too. And even if they say something that I think is unfair, I'm still going to be heard, and then we're going to come to a resolution together. It will take time, but in the long run, it does build stronger, healthier relationships. So listen carefully to both sides and then repeat it back to them, checking that you've got the right side of it. Okay, well, I think you were feeling like this because, and so that's why you behaved like this. Have I got that right? Okay, it seems to me you were feeling like this. Am I understanding you correctly? Because we can only move forward when we've got everybody's perspective and when we've got the full story. Sometimes these things will happen and we haven't witnessed any of it, and we have to create an environment built on trust where our children do tell us what's actually happened. If they're in a situation and they feel like you're just going to take this child's side and they know that they've done something wrong, what's the benefit to them telling the truth if they feel like they're going to be in trouble? Number 7, try not to punish. Try to avoid a big blowout when somebody's done something wrong. Try to avoid things like a timeout as a punishment. Yes, they might need to have a little bit of space and they might need time to calm down, and that's okay, but sending them off somewhere on their own reiterates their feeling of being pushed out or even rejected. And actually sometimes this is where that exact behaviour between siblings can come from. As I said about creating an environment where they're telling the truth, if our children feel like they're going to be punished, they're less likely to be honest about what's happened. And okay, it starts with a little lie of, well, I didn't push them. But this then escalates. If they learn that they can lie to us and then they don't get in trouble, but if they tell us the truth, they do get in trouble. Our children don't want to be in trouble. And often this behaviour between siblings has come unintentionally. They've just reacted from their place of insecurity or their frustration. So to summarise, try not to take sides, try to put their emotions into words, create an environment where everyone does tell the truth because they're not going to be punished, and recognise that all of this takes time. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about how to create an environment where your children fall out less.